What's going on with Tennessee and the NCAA? And is it the Vols against everybody or everybody against the NCAA? We're going to sort through this on today's episode of The Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome in. Hey, changing it up. My name is Bryce Koon. Will Manis, Ralph Larry alongside us. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, we appreciate you. And if you're watching alongside of us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and like the video and comment your thoughts down below. Interesting show on tap here today, guys. And I think this is one where it's already kind of been widely publicized. It's an ongoing story. So let's just kind of cut to the chase here of what we're looking at. Obviously, earlier this week, Tennessee starts to kind of hear some violations. We see the violations come out. Ralph, I know you had kind of walked through what a level 1 violation is with us. We're not going to bore everyone to death by reading through the NCAA manual and handbook for that. But in turn, Tennessee said we're fighting this. Like we're not. Somebody put their foot down. We're going to talk a lot about this tonight in just several different ways. But, Will, how would you best describe what has transpired this week between the Tennessee athletic program and the NCAA? Because it's been and we're going to talk about flexing power here in a little bit, but just how would you describe the situation and maybe what Tennessee has reportedly done wrong?
I mean, being on the outside of it, you just kind of laugh because it was just last summer that they found out their punishment for things that happened during Jeremy Pruitt's time as head coach. And now we're looking at things that Josh Heupel and his people, his staff has done to kind of skirt the rules. I've expected it to come to a head like this at some point. Somebody was going to put their foot down and try to fight the NCAA to try to figure out all this NIL stuff. It's been the Wild West. The NCAA even leaned into that and acknowledged that in their statement this week about it. They're just trying to clamp down on some rules and provide some guidance. Tennessee doesn't agree with it. So it's been the Wild West, and honestly, it was just a matter of time. But I think if I don't want to know who at Tennessee has made the NCAA so angry. Is it Philip Fulmer? I mean, who is it? Because somebody has gotten Tennessee on the NCAA's radar.
Yeah, it's one of those things like you start to kind of read it. And Ralph, we were all driving and whatnot the other day, and you called us and you read out the list of like what you have to do to get violations. And I do believe Ralph's muted. That's okay though. Hey,
well, so you FaceTimed us while you were driving. So
yes, yeah. I said
Bryce is breaking the rules.
So I was breaking the rules. NCAA didn't come after me, but that's okay. The hotel that I was staying at did. This is a second hotel of the weekend, by the way. Absolute mayhem and pandemonium in the Mobile airport area. So let's, Ralph, like it was what last year, or it was like 18 level 1 violations that they got hit for.
It was over the summer of 2023.
This past summer. Right. Now it's a couple more level 1 violations. Like I will say this, and we're going to get into it. If you were getting caught at this day and age with how wild west it is, I think you're just stupid. Like, I think you're just stupid if you're getting caught at this point. It's not making fun of Tennessee. It kind of is, I guess. But if you're just going to get caught over stuff like this, it's so blatantly obvious of ways that you can do it legally. I genuinely don't understand like how you're getting caught. So your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, you said it best. Like, how are you getting caught at this point? They've legalized everything you can do. I mean, basically, is all you really can't do is just the school giving the player money. That's the whole thing from the get go. That was happening for so long. Boosters were giving money to the player for so long. They finally legalized it. NIL made it where it's somewhat understandable, but then again, not understandable because the transfer portal and everything happens, but. Tennessee got caught for something they did before NIL was even a thing, and that's why they got hit so hard over the summer. And they're just finally like, okay, maybe we can start this rebuild process we started last year, and then they get hit with again. This one seems like it's gonna be a lot worse if it goes through. I mean, you're talking about coaches being fired, probably ADs being fired. I mean, you're talking about like a lot of stuff that's going to happen, and
Yeah.
Tennessee's not prepared for that. I mean, we talk about like when they had Pruitt and they had Butch Jones and everything was going just bad, or it was just bad years after bad years, and then now you're like, okay, Heupel's here, new AD, everything's going great. You beat Alabama finally, and now you're back in this area. You're like, oh my gosh, we could be in a hole for the next 10 years probably. So, why are we screwing up? Why can't we just do the things? Why can't we do the right things the right way?
Yeah.
You're not asking for a lot. As a fan of Tennessee, if you're a fan of Tennessee, why on earth is this happening again?
Yeah, no, I mean, and just to clarify, like if you have no clue what we're talking about at this day and age, or this point of the week, you should. A lot of it is going to center around Nico. I believe it's pronounced Iamaleava, the quarterback. I think it is, because all the jokes have been, I'm going to leave Iamaleava when he eventually transfers out of Tennessee due to people saying that. But obviously, his collective relationship, the amount of money he signed an $8 million deal with Spire, which is a collective that supports the athletic department. I mean, all of these different things. Now, look, let's set this here, because this is kind of where we've laid the groundwork for this conversation. Everybody's paying players. Everybody's using collectives to do it. You can't cry and complain because your said team's not spending enough, or you can do that, but you can't just cry and say other teams are spending money to do that. It's all legal. If you're getting caught, that's ridiculous. Now, Ralph, take us to the next bullet point, because I know Will and I really, really agree on this here. This is an example of the NCAA flexing its limited power. They have little to no jurisdiction over these things. They've lost a lot of credibility and respect. And what has happened in this, they're just going to flex, and they are trying to make an example out of Tennessee. Before I hand it off to you guys, I want to talk about what Danny White said. Pretty much saying these are nebulous, contradictory, rulings that are coming down. This is his first public comments that he has made, and then talked about how he was really not going to let this happen. Like, really took a fighting stance against what the NCAA was saying here. All of this to me is the NCAA is a joke, and I want to address one thing. I was surfing through social media, and I came across this very well known podcast. That's located in the state of Georgia, and guy does a great job and everything. But he mentioned that, and they mentioned on the show, people need to stop complaining about the NCAA not doing anything, but then doing something. Mm-hmm. And while I understand that, this is not what this is. This is not the NCAA doing things in the right way. They are trying to flex and make an example out of somebody. This would be like me, this would be like me telling you guys, hey, let's record a show at 8 o'clock, or never telling you to record a show at 8 o'clock and be sitting in here at 8 o'clock ready to record a show and being mad at you. Like, you never laid out ground rules for this, so you can't really come back and flex your power after the fact. Will, your thoughts on all this?
Well, firstly, starting with what Danny White said, there is some truth to that. It does seem contradictory.
Yeah.
I know his big thing was, the NCAA doesn't really comment on things on ongoing investigations because they made a rule for themselves that they can't. But they have in the past leaked information, which they've done, not just to Tennessee. He was pointing to this recent batch of violations that got handed down on Tennessee, but they've done it for other cases as well. And there is truth to that. But at the end of the day, I feel that if you are a member institution of the NCAA, you still have to abide by their rules. I've had Tennessee fans tell me that, well, their rules go against Tennessee state law. They have to follow state law. Right. And if there's an issue with that, you need to go to the NCAA, go to your local state congressman and say, hey, I don't understand these rules. They sound contradictory to me. How do I go about doing what I have to do to field a competitive, in this case, football team?
Yeah.
What do I have to do? And you don't stop until you get an answer from somebody. Because, at the end of the day, the rule is there, no matter how confusing or dumb you think it might be. You have to do all that you can to follow it. And I really think that's where Tennessee messed up right on in this case, was just kind of going off what they thought they could do. And the NCAA's already, got the microscope on them, and they're going to hammer them. Like you said, they've got limited power, and they're going to try to make an example out of somebody.
You said something that's really key there, and Ralph can comment on this. It's not that the lack of rules, the lack of concrete black and white type of evidence here is an issue. That is a problem in all of this. But the thing is that the lack of communication, it seems, on Tennessee's side here between them and, I mean, lack of words, their state government, state legislation to be able to figure this stuff out. I mean, that's where you have to take responsibility, because
somebody in that
everyone else doing this.
Somebody in that athletic department did not do their job, because every athletic department has multiple people that are, they call them compliance officers. I know Tennessee has them. This is their job, to communicate with the NCAA and make sure that they're following their rules. And somebody just wasn't doing their job. Maybe Tennessee said, well, we don't like the NCAA anyway, so let's just do what we're going to do. They don't punish anybody else anyway, so let's just do it. They're not going to punish us, but now they're going to try.
Well, the problem is with Nico's case of the dollar amount. Like, when you're talking about that amount of dollars, you're going to become under scrutiny. Ralph, you were talking about before the show. I mean, and I know you were talking with a said Tennessee fan before this, kind of about all of this. But like, you have to take responsibility at some point. I agree. There is the lack of rules, and we're going to talk about it later. It's resulted in lawsuits being filed against the NCAA, which is just a wild concept to me still. But just your thoughts on maybe take some responsibility and sort your own stuff out. And then maybe you'll get some real good institutional support from other programs, especially in the SEC.
Yeah, and that's one thing we were talking about earlier today. It was, Iowa's under a little fire right now because they made some recruiting violations with a certain player, and it's a level 3. They're reporting it themselves, and they're going to get like the one the one guy who did it at Iowa's going to get like a talking to by the NCAA. That's it. That's how easy it was. You took it. You said, hey, we screwed up. We did something wrong. We know what we did. We know who did it. He's coming out and said he did it, and they're not getting anything done to him. Nothing's going to happen to him. Tennessee's just said, we're going to do all this all year long. We let it slide. We didn't say anything that happened. And then because we didn't ask about it. All you had to do was just call somebody, make a phone call, send an email, fax something. We are in the 21st century. It's not hard to ask questions these days through an email. And like Will said, someone's not doing their job. That person needs to be fired, or those people need to be fired, because that's just awful. If you're sitting here,
the potential fallout of it is going to result on other people getting fired.
Yeah, look, if this fallout happens, Heupel's gone, Danny White's gone. I mean, that's just true. You're losing your head coach and your athletic director at the least, and everything else is going to go. It's going to go downhill from there on out. And so you're talking about 3 or 4 jobs that are top tier jobs in at a program that are gone because you didn't want to contact someone in the SEC or in the NCAA and your state legislator, all that stuff. It's just it's awful. It's just so sad to see that this happens. And back to the NCAA flexes his limited power. They're probably saying you could just asked. You could just say, hey, our state's not agreeing with us. How can we, or our state's not changing its law to help us out. How can we go and do what everyone else is doing and not get caught? Or, hey, this happened while we were recruiting. We misread the whole situation. We misread the bylaws, and now we feel like we screwed up. It's not like they're going to hound you for it. You'll get like maybe a level 2 at most. You self-reported. They respect more self-reports than anything. If they self-report, you might get a level 2, level 3 at most. So, I don't know. It's just someone that did their job, like Will said. It's going to haunt them, because if this fallout happens, it's going to be bad.
I mentioned this Tennessee Chancellor Don Day. I'm guessing it's Plowman or Plowman. However, he wrote a letter, and in that letter to the NCAA, and I like how ESPN uses the term "scathing letter." That sounds like something my mom wrote to one of my teachers or something like that, or like you get back from like as a customer service rep, a scathing letter. Strongly worded. He goes, instead,
had a scathing phone call last night.
I lost it on the I can't even think of what it was called, the Hilton Hotel, and instead 2.5 years of vague and contradictory NCAA memos, emails, and guidance about name, image, likeness. Guidance is in quotations. This is obviously a sarcastic remark. Has created extraordinary chaos that student athletes and institutions are struggling to navigate. In short, the NCAA is failing. That's correct. That is a very true statement. Problem is the responsibility factor. And I just don't know where this thing is going to go. And it's really kind of resulted, as we kind of move on to the next little bullet point here, is the now where we are on Wednesday and Thursday now is lawsuits are being filed against the NCAA. I don't know what in the world it means for the Attorney General in Virginia and the Attorney General in Tennessee to file temporary restraining orders against the NCAA. Like, I don't. It's like, hey, I know that you're about to. It's that would be like, guys, when we did something bad when we were younger, and your mom told your dad, and you knew what was going to happen when your dad got home from work, type of deal, and you just went in there and you beat him to the punch. You said, you know what, you cannot come into my room. I know you're going to punish me, but you're not allowed to come to my room. There's a restraining order. You cannot cross this. Now, we know that would not have gone well for either of us, any of us here. It's a bogus thing. I don't know what's going to come out of this, but Tennessee's not backing down at all. And I think Tennessee has a point. They probably should have been a little bit cleaner on their side of things. But when you start getting lawsuits and all this type of stuff, like, man, this is where
Attorney General's involved. It's just too far.
This isn't the first time this has happened. Just December, January, West Virginia got a temporary restraining order against the NCAA for basketball players, but they only could get it for 14 days. So, I mean, the players that they got it for could play only one game based on their schedule for those couple of weeks. So, to me, it's kind of like, what is the point? Like, why get a temporary restraining order? Like, if you're going to get a temporary restraining order for Nico, it's not going to do anything. They're not playing any games right now. So, I mean, I don't know.
The Virginia Attorney General Myers, or I believe it's Myares, was quoted and wrote this on social media. The NCAA's NIL recruiting ban. I don't even understand what NIL recruiting ban means. No,
he's saying recruiting ban violates.
Yeah, I don't know what an NIL recruiting
I think he's saying NIL recruiting. Oh, yeah, I guess I
don't know what. Yeah, I don't know what NIL. They're not banning NIL recruiting. Violates federal antitrust laws, thwarts the free market, and unfairly limits student athletes. We're taking them to court. Okay, so what happens? Like, I think that's where we are. Like, what is the fallout of this? Okay, so Ralph mentioned, obviously, worst case scenario for Tennessee is Josh Heupel's gone. Nico, I mean, I don't know how that works. Does he become ineligible? Are there some, there's some things there?
Well,
does Danny White have to serve a temporary suspension? I don't know.
I mean, you're going to pay for these court fees for one. I mean,
your collective's going to pay for that, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know how that works.
The state's the one filing the lawsuit, so it sounds like the taxpayer.
Oh, no, I don't want to get political.
That's not to get political.
That's true, though.
Nico's probably ruled ineligible. He'll probably hit the portal instantly.
Someone's going to watch this little clip right here, and Ralph, they're going to think that you just said that Nico is ineligible. I want to preface it with, we're talking worst case scenario here for Tennessee. Okay, keep going, but I just no, you're good. So some moron's going to come in here and be like, this guy on the right just said this. Yeah, keep going.
Look, he's a Troy fan. He don't know anything. I agree.
Or anybody.
Well, Bryce's internet is so bad we don't even know what he just said there. But Nico probably hits the portal. He leaves. A lot more recruits leave. You lose scholarships. Postseason bans. I mean, we were all talking about this yesterday, and this is what's going to happen if this fallout happens. Not just coaches. You're talking about you're not playing in a bowl game for 5-6 years or however long they choose for. There's no playoffs. Don't expect to have a top 10 recruiting class. Don't expect to be winning many games. I mean, it's just going to be. I mean, you go back to SMU when they got the death penalty. They're not Tennessee. I don't think we'll ever see the death penalty again.
Unfortunately for Tennessee, they don't have to think back too far to go through that again.
I know, but
think of the man that wore the orange breeches on the sideline.
we spoke his name tonight. We're not speaking it again. But
I've been watching a World War II documentary, by the way, and it talks about Rommel and his advances with the German forces throughout North Africa. And if you're a big Tennessee fan, you remember Derek Dooley's press conference talking about Rommel. Great clip, one of the best clips ever. Anyways, keep going.
I was just going to finish off saying, it's just I don't know. I've already lost my train of thought though. It is what it is.
They talk about the NCAA being a monopoly and violating antitrust laws. I mean, I think if you look up the definition of monopoly, the NCAA fits that bill.
Yeah.
But, the way I see it is college athletics needs a governing body. They're the one that stepped up and just like any other organization or business, they work with the federal government to be able to do what they want to do.
Yeah.
And, finally, the federal government's giving them some pushback because a lot of the stuff the NCAA has done for a long time is against what they say they're about, which is protecting and to benefit the student athlete. And finally, that they're actually being held to the fire to do that. So I think there's a lot of truth on both sides. But again, at the end of the day, this sounds like a failure to communicate on Tennessee's part, and the NCAA wants to make them pay for it.
Make them pay. The last part we have is not directly tied to this, but it is kind of the worrisome of where we're going and the potential trajectory we're heading into college football. If you haven't already, and I'll plug it because he does a fantastic job. Adam Brenneman, his podcast, he actually released an episode with Jeff Hafley, who, if you don't know, just took the DC job with the Green Bay Packers, leaving his post as a head coach at Boston College. And it surprised a lot of people. And I think, for us, when you talk about where college football is heading, we all love college football. We're going to watch it regardless. But the day-to-day grind, the lack of
don't speak for everybody
schedule.
in here.
Oh yeah, well, is Ralph not watching it? Oh, Will's not going to watch
I'm
it.
talking about me.
Oh yeah. Well,
the Auburn game this year.
Yeah, that's also true. But Jeff Hafley kind of revealed his thoughts, and this was before he took the job, and kind of a telling sign at why he jumped at this opportunity. He said, "I don't see NIL going away. Everything seems to need a solution right now. We just need more rules. What am I seeing? Players are getting paid a lot of money. Tampering is going on. The NIL with the portal is a complete disaster. There just needs to be some rules. You look at the NFL, you've at least got a salary cap. You can use X amount of money, and there's more parity there. The league is built to keep things balanced. Right now, we're going down a road in college where there's going to be more imbalance than ever, and it's fooling people. You're getting some teams that can really actually pull away, and you're about to see that. And then you're going to get some teams that you've seen in the last years that have been pretty good, and they're going to start to fall off." I think Hafley hits the nail on the head. Mm-hmm. You talk about, Reese Davis's one-on-one with Nick Saban and talking about, just the grind of what it is now. You start to see some of these really, good coaches, Saban obviously one of them, the best. I mean, Hafley's a good coach, a guy that was pretty even in his time and trying to build something at Boston College. But I just think it's going to be a real shame if we start to see some really, really great coaches kind of bow out of the college ranks. And I think Hafley's comments, I guarantee you there's, in the Power 5 ranks at least, or in the FBS ranks, probably 128 other guys that say, we love it. But yeah, there's a lot of truth to what that man said. Your guys' thoughts on kind of where we're heading and Hafley's comments on that, and whoever wants to take it first.
You will.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of said it. I think Hafley's a really good coach. When he took this job, I think I'd texted both of y'all, and my first thought was, whoa, like, why? Why is he jumping to be a DC in the NFL? And I looked up his numbers. I think, Bryce, you said it. If he had another bad year, he was probably going to be shown the door. I think he was like 22 and 26 in 4 years. But it felt like this year they were really starting to turn that corner. Boston College is a tough place to be competitive on the national level. And even at the ACC level, they kind of up there by themselves in the Northeast, up in Boston. Tough to recruit the Northeast. A lot, you got to fight with the Big Ten up there a lot. And, it really felt like he was starting to turn a corner. But then, seeing his comments, it made sense why he would want to go back to the NFL. I've said it many times. I have Georgia friends that say the same thing, that Kirby Smart, he probably won't be coaching at Georgia for the next decade. He may only have 5 to 7 more years. And he kind of hints at that, talking about the grind that it really is. You can go back to the SEC championship, the build up to that. They interviewed Saban and Smart at the same time. And Kirby said, I hope to be doing this as long as you, to Saban, and Nick turned to him and said, you won't, because you're smarter than me. So he's not going to be in it for life, so as good of a coach as he is, I wouldn't be surprised for him the next couple of years, especially if he keeps Georgia up at the top, to get NFL looks as a head coach, just jump straight to head coach to the NFL. And there's going to be more. He's not the only one. And Kirby Smart's probably the guy that loves it more than anybody else, at least that says it publicly, that loves to recruit, loves to coach, loves to make young men better. But even he's got his sights thinking about his life, his future.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. There, Ralph. Any closing comments on? Look, I mean, it's obviously Tennessee investigations are massive, but Hafley's departure, him leaving, it's kind of concerning when you see a guy. And I want to obviously be respectful of Jeff Hafley. We're not talking about an elite level coach. We're talking about a solid coach and a guy that players like to play for. And he left his post as a head coach of a Power 5 university to go be a DC in the NFL. Not knocking the job that he has, and it looks like Packer fans are kind of excited to bring him to the table. But it's kind of sad for the college game if you see a lot of young, and Hafley's a younger guy too, a lot of younger coaches say, it's not worth doing this.
Yeah, this is the main reason why Saban got out. I mean, he was so tired of dealing with the whole business side of dealing with recruits and the NIL and just the transfer portal and everything. And there's just no time to coach. I mean, he talked about how Saban used to talk about how he would wake up, he could be at the facilities till 3 a.m., come back, wake up at 6 a.m. and be at the facility in 30 minutes, and do it every day. And he's a lot older than Hafley, but it's the same thing every day. He's so tired of it. And Hafley just, he's seen it early on in his career. It's like, I can't do this every day. I can't compete recruiting wise with the big schools and the schools that have more money than us. And he's tired of it. And obviously there's comments under all these posts that, wait till you get the NFL and see what these players are paid. That doesn't matter.
They're grown men with families.
These guys are playing in a professional league. This is their everyday job, and this is it. They're not going to school, and driving, having all these nice things is with all these other students around them who have to pay for their college. These are pro athletes who work every day. If they get hurt, they don't get paid. It's just, this is something different. This is a league where it's more respected, and then the pay and everything. Obviously, you got some players that are maybe quote unquote overpaid, but there's a salary cap for a reason. There's no spending limits in the NFL. But I agree with him. I hate that Boston College is losing a very good coach, who I thought was a good hire for them years ago, and was hoping he turned it around. He had some really good runs this year, obviously almost upsetting Florida State. But I think he's going to do great things for Green Bay next year. So
yeah, it's a weird time in college football, that's for sure. So, but hey, tell us what you think down in the comments below. Tennessee investigation, absolutely nuts, crazy. We'll keep tabs on that. We're going to be talking SEC, ACC, Big 12, Big 10, and more as we continue to roll through this. They call it an off season. January has been the furthest thing from that. It's nuts and it's fun.
There's no off season.
No such thing.
Ask the coaches.
Exactly. And we want you right here. Hit the subscribe button. Thanks for following, whether it's on social media. Head over to thecrowdedbooth.com as well. He's Ralph Leary. That's Will Manis. My name is Bryce Koon. We'll catch you next time here on The Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.